Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Vincent Jiang. I live in New York for a very long time, and then I work as a senior, as a scheduling manager for Hillmore International. This is my 25th year in this job, and then today we're going to talk about working control application by not just the 4040 model, it's also the CPM, which has been dealing for the past 20 years. What is a program control scope? When we talk about this is a very new idea of in the construction. So when I started to work, it's still not a very specialty, but nowadays it become one of very special positions in the construction. So it does tell you during the bidding process, it does tell you how much time you're going to need, how much money you're going to need, what's the risks in there, and what's the potential change orders or everything involved in the risk management it can happen to the job. So the more you know about the program, the better you can do with your cost, and the better you're going to win in a project. By the way, I was actually working for my experience. I was working for both sides. I was working for engineering firm, and I also worked for the construction firm. So for me to have this two views, and then what I see during a typical construction project might be a little neutral with my experience. So what's a project planning? When we received a new project to bid on, we start with the cost. Of course, we have the drawings and we start with the cost. Everybody only cares about cost, but nowadays things are changing. We also want to know how much time, and we also want to know the risk. So during the bidding process, and then on top of it, the New York City where I am, we have a lot of projects are actually in design build. The old-fashioned way of the lump sum contract, it's getting less and less. So it brings a lot of changes on the program control, especially everything got to connect. The CPN got to connect with the payment, with a 4D5D model. There's a way the industry is going through an evolution. Schedule control is what I'm doing. So there are a couple of stages I'm going to talk about during bidding, after we win the awards, during construction, after construction, in between the construction. So there's a lot of different ways we're doing as my role, and there's a lot of different duties I need to do daily. So I will demonstrate how we can apply this concept in the new industry. And cost control, which in the old days, it was only the estimator was doing this. But with the new concept, because the CPN kicking on top of it, not just that, because the owner has a pressure from the public, from the federal agency. So not just the cost, the time is also important for the control factor. And another one is the risk management. Before we bid on any projects, the old days, the owner only care about the cost. Say the lowest one get the bidder, but the game is changing now for design build. Nowadays, when they scale, which means they give you, it's an invitation. First of all, it's an invitation only. Not everybody can bid on public job now. So when you do a good job on the previous projects, and the public agency will invite you for the next one. And if you screw out for the previous project, you will not get the invitation. And for the winners of the contract, whoever win the new bidding, it's not just by the cost anymore. There's 10% for technical. Sometimes they go up to 20 to 30% on the scheduling options, which they give you a schedule A for the bidding days for the duration of the project. They give you a score for that, a grade for that as well. And then the cost, of course, it could take up to 50 to 70% on the cost. And change order management. A lot of times, even the design build, if you're an experienced contractor, you can see your potential add-on to the project. So we're talking about a change order management. Now it's related to the CPM as well. I'm going to demonstrate how we get paid from the CPM. And claim analysis. If everything fails through, it was the project doesn't go well, the next thing you're going to go is a claim, which in my career life, I did have some of them, but I'm not a big fan of it. So let's talk about what we use on the software for the daily use. For how do we do the program control? We need software to help us, and it's industry standards. First of all, for scheduling software, in New York City, the whole New York State area, it's pretty much standardized. We're using Primavera P6. When I started, we're actually using P3, and it's a local based. It's not a database concept. It was more like Excel concept. So you're using that on your local computers, and you're sharing the file just like you're sharing Excel files. But nowadays, it's a database. So there's a different way of using it. You have it on cloud. You have it on actually a centered database in the office, or like my client, New York State Department of Transportation, they actually have their own Citrix, which we got to use that. All the databases safe in their cloud. For personal use, which is a Microsoft project, we actually encourage the project engineer or project manager, if they want to build a weekend schedule or some miniature schedule, they do not have to go for the full blown for Primavera P6, because it's a little too complicated for the first time user, since it's a database concept. MS Project serves, it could be used and converted to a Microsoft Excel or Word file or even a PDF file. So it's for but the disadvantage for that is the MS Project doesn't talk very well with Primavera 6 P6. So we do not encourage a scheduler to use Microsoft Project. STOT Power Project, that's new in the market. It's a very smart tool. It looks like MS Project, is very user friendly, but it talks with the Primavera P6 very well. So this is the one we would recommend on it. For any newcomers who want to work on the CPM, that's a recommendation we'll do. For the Bing software in the market, so I'm going to talk about more software for the Bing, but in the New York market, it's booming. So starting from 2023, I'm starting to see more and more projects require Bing. CPM is 100% required, but Bing, I have about, my experience that we have about 50% required for, and there's a standard by the schedule, by the contract value. Usually in New York, it's about $30 million contract. They will request you to have a BIM model, which is a 45D model. The software we're using, usually two in the market, the biggest two in the United States so far is Rivet, which is by AutoCAD. But funny that my project in New York, everybody use Synchro. Maybe it's because it's from Pennsylvania, it's closer. And Rivet, it's actually from California. So I heard all the West Coast is using Rivet, and the East Coast is using Synchro. I'll do a little demonstration after this. And how big is the BIM market growth? Just like what I say, usually it's a client, the owner is requesting that, and the contractor and the designer will actually have the BIM model, because to start that, everything actually costs money. And we're talking about what's the pros and cons for using a BIM model. But now let's look at the BIM market growth in the United States. The growth is dramatic. So we're projecting 2027 from 2023, the size is going to be triple. So we're modeling the revenue to anticipate to go up to almost 26 billion in 2030. And American Institute is talking about 100% of the large size architecture firm or engineering firm are embracing BIM model. The small size, we're talking about 33%. Okay, the global BIM users. Who are users? As far as I know, the engineering firm are the biggest architect engineer. They take almost half of the share. Contractors start to embrace it, and the construction managers, which represent the owner, it's about the same because it's in the spec. So everybody have to start to get used to it. And I'm sure the new civil engineer back in school, I'm sure they actually learned this back in school. And it's a pretty hot topic. Again, the market is growing 3 times, and we're talking about Wisconsin is the first state that embraced BIM model completely back in 2010. And then for any project over $5 million, they are required to do that, which kind of increased the price to the whole project. But it's a good thing. We're going to explain why there's a pros and cons for this. BIM software. So like what I say, the 2 biggest ones are Autodesk in California for Revit, and Synchro, which is actually Bentley, which is also Synchro, which is in the East Coast for Pennsylvania. And then each country has their own, especially European countries. They embrace this way earlier than United States. Case study. So today I'm going to talk about a project I have been involving for the past 3 years. And this is not the first 4D model I am involved. But this is definitely one of the very interesting one, which is still ongoing. So let's talk a little bit about this Van Wyck contract here project. Location of the project. Let's take a look at it. So we're talking, if you ever come to New York City, usually there are two airports. The international line start from the JFK right here. And when you're heading the northbound, heading Long Island Expressway, getting to Manhattan, right here, there's a Jamaica station. So we're talking about all the different lines go to Manhattan and different part of Long Island. This is one of the biggest hub in the Queens. And underneath here, this Van Wyck has been underneath the trails and the tracks on top of the Long Island Railroad. So location-wise, it's near what we call the Van Wyck, which is a 678 in Usher Avenue and Lake Avenue. So scope of work. There are 4 different scope of work on this job. I'm going to show you on the rendering so you guys have a better idea. Because we are replacing basically 3 different sections of bridges, and 2 of them are actually have a life track on that. So and then we also are changing the settings on the northbound and southbound of service rail. And then we are getting that a new retaining wall, which is on the abutment on the 2 sides. And also we're replacing a new an old bridge called Atlantic Avenue Bridge. That is a very interesting bridge because it's right underneath the air train to Van Wyck. So there's a space and a height restriction when we are constructing that. And plus, because this is a living highway, one thing very interested in the United States is when you are doing highway construction, you definitely cannot stop the highway unless you have a sufficient reason for means and method you are during construction, or during the construction you have to have the highway still going, also the surface one. So duration of the project is 40 months. I have been on the job. Actually, way before that is a pre-job for Atlantic 6 project, which is a utility bridge on that. I was there before COVID, and this is actually during the COVID we have this job awarded, and it was ongoing. So far, it's the final completion date is projected to be next year. And in the contract, it's next year, June 24th. But we're talking about, because the job got delayed, various reasons on the utility and also on the design change. So this job is currently running about 6 to 9 months, depends on the acceleration plan we're having. So originally it's 40 months, so this could go up to 50 months. Project innovation. So now we're going to look. This is one of the video when we are bidding on the project. So I'm just going to show a quick 2-3 minutes of the video, how the owner is requesting more and more on the bidding process. They want us to visualize, they want to see the project, they want to see your methodologies to bring the job alive. So this video itself, as far as I know, this video could cost close to $1 million.好，我现在在给你看这个 4D 的 model， 你们可以看到吗？
可以。
OK， 这个就是 Bentley run 出来的，然后下面这个就是 baseline， 上面这个是 what really happened， 所以我们把它调快一点，它就会变成这样。你看，上面就是说，you know， 这下面是 current， 上面是 baseline。baseline 说你应该已经盖这里了，可是 it didn't happen， 因为我们 we ran into utility issues。然后这个是 Atlantic Bridge 那个 view， 所以 Bentley 就是说他们 owner 那边有一个顾问会要求我们要哪一个 angle， 哪一个角度去看。然后所以你看我们已经run very behind， 下面这是 current， 然后上面这是 baseline， 所以这每个月我就是要给他们一个这个video clip。我们把它拉快一点，它就变这样。This is like what I said, this job is broken into 4 different locations. So we're talking, this is the Atlantic Bridge right before the air train. So this is how it looks like that. Can you guys see the rendering at least? It's a 4D model. It's a simulated photo. So that's achieved from the very detailed 4D model. So this is existing how it's looked like. Look at this rusted, the bridge has been here, and the retaining wall has been here for over maybe 670 years when it was built. This is how it's going to look like. New retaining wall, new bridge, and the structure has been rusted. So and then the new pier, new retaining wall, new sidewalk, and especially here, it's one of the most Jamaica hospital, which is the most busiest hospital in Queens. And next one, we're going to look at a double deck, which is the track, what we call A1 to A4 in westbound Montauk. So this is how it's looked like. If you look at it, this track has been here since London Railroad has been running. The concrete has been chipped, and then we do a lot of repair in here. And this is all going to be replaced. The track, the ballast, and the waterproofing, everything, even the structure down underneath here, all new piers, all going to be replaced. Let's look at it. Let's take a look at how it's going to look like after the project is complete. By the way, this is the air train. So air train goes through here, and this is very close to the air train. This is how it's going to look like with a new structure. Every of the pier is going to be replaced. Altogether, for the double deck, we have 3 different piers, plus 2 on the abutment. That will make it 5. And let's look at another one, which is very interesting. We'll call the Midnight 13. That's a different track from Jamaica, actually heading to Manhattan. So this is how it looks like. Driving from Queens direction to, from the North Queens to the South Queens. This is what you see. You're going to see that overbridge right in front of you. This is what we call Midnight 13. And the construction for that will be, we have 2 super weekend to replace the whole structure. We have that assembled on the side, but this pier all got to be built with a temporary support on that. The new pier, they're going to be sitting on the new pier, 15, 16, it's a 15, 16, and 14 on that. So let's look at how it's going to look like when it's complete. Brand new structure. And this piers are apparently they're so much thicker, and we get rid of the steel structure in the old ones. And actually, we got more space on the side row, on the service row, and then the brand new retaining wall on that. The last one we're going to see is the service row. So this is how it's looked like for the service row. We have actually different elevations to the main row and then on the service row. And then after it's all complete, this Midnight 13 and double deck are going to look like brand new. So all this because we can't take down the whole space. Nobody can go to the airport. So we only have 2 super weekends to shut down each side on the northbound and southbound. The job got to be going. I'll show you guys a video how this is done when at the end of the presentation. So how do we do everything got to come out with the how do we do start for this concept, and how do we make the CPM into a real life during construction and then before bidding. During the bidding, we got all the bidding drawings since this is a design build. So we only get the concept, we only get a scope. So we have to come out with the detail. So the bidding schedule actually involves a lot. And what's making it more complicated is underneath the bidding schedule, we're talking about what's an SD form. It's a schedule value form, which we call the schedule of contract durations. And every deal, can you guys see the PDF file? Everything good. So there's every contract comes with a lot of liquid damage. This job, liquidated damage. This job is not short of it. Look at how many milestones I have. I have a substantial. I have on each area, we got the intermediate milestones for double deck for Midnight 13, and then look at the price you're going to pay per day. This is not kidding. So seriously, every contractor is very, very careful about this. And then not just that, impacts to the traffic. This is called CD2A. They have a lot of stuff on each different, let's say the 94th Avenue, that the bridge. They want to make sure that you don't take more than 575 days. But for this job, it's definitely going to double down. And then there's another one for overall maximum. This is the maximum you can go for. And on the northbound service road and southbound service road, you have the OCMC on the traffic effect, which, you have only 900 days on each side. Let's look at a preliminary schedule, which is when we get awarded for the job, we have to tell the owner within 10 days, we have to change the bidding schedule. To tell them, what are we going to do now in the first 90 days? Usually it's just design activities. In a little survey or a little boring activities, or, a lot of times it's just a utility activities on the first 90 days. And after 90 days, usually we have 2 months to give them a detailed baseline schedule, which I can demonstrate here. Back in the baseline schedule, this is a big category for this. We have to decide this milestone days are all meeting what do we bid on. So the dates got to be matching what do we bid on. This is just a summary schedule on this job. And during next one is during the update, we're going to provide it. And so you can see that this job is definitely running with a lot of different, for this 293 days, basically 10 months. And the biggest one we have, this job, it's because the old fashioned way of the lump sum, everything quantities. So it's paid by unit price. You have linear square foot, you have linear foot or square foot or cubic yards for concrete. DOT, New York State DOT used to that. But now with the new days, because you can't decide the quantity on steel, you don't know how many tons you're going to build until your design come out. So now we come out with an intelligent way to build the how do we link the schedule with the payment. So I will demonstrate on the P6 for that. And the next one is the cash flow in Primavera on the P6. Primavera can do a lot of things. That's why it's so powerful, and there are so many users on that. Unfortunately, this Primavera P6 only does revenue projection because the cost from the contractor side, we do not want the owner to see that. So it could be separated into category, but Primavera doesn't have the function to export only partial of it. If it's getting export, it's exporting the whole thing. So the owner can see the detail on the cost, which the contractor does not want to see that. But that function is still not included in Primavera P6. So this is another project I had back in the about 15 years ago, where the 7 line, which extension goes from Times Square all the way to the new housing yard with the 2 new stations. That was one of the ventilation tower we have. We are talking about, this is about like 150 feet deep, and then with a 2 tunnel to a ventilation tower. So this is what we look like on the baseline. And a good project always have a good baseline. And this is the lesson 1 for the schedule projected cost. So the blue line, which means it's more aggressive, you are doing everything in the early start. So on the CPM schedule, you have the choice of doing everything as early as possible, which is the blue line, the deep blue line. On the lower one for the yellow line, which we're talking about as a late start, if you decided for everything to start as late as you could, that's what you get. And then the pink line and the blue line is what do you do during the project. This project works very well. Anything in between the early start and late start, your project is actually in control. This job was finished on time for 2 years, but unfortunately we lose a big part of, we lose a lot of money on that because the bidding wasn't accurate. They were missing a part of it. But there was this job was running on time, or we would have and could have lose even more money on that. So now it's a little demonstration about how we look at the P6 to do the payment. So the payment for this job is basically broken down into the budget cost, and we have the extra cost and remaining costs on that. So they are all coming from a category for what do we call the WBS work breakdown structure, which is the same as your DCB, detailed cost breakdown. So once you finish that, you can see the percentage on the total duration and remaining duration. That's how we get the percentage for the owner to pay on the category. So now, once you have the CPM, you can link that. How do we make the CPM update? And how do we do the 45-year update on the payment? So I just show you the CPM update, how I do it. Every month, we get the progress, and then we put in the CPM. That's step 1. Step 2, we use the CPM to get paid from the Excel file, which is automatically generated for the Excel. So when we finish, the DOT traditional, they have different pay categories. So when we finish one category, we can get a percentage completion, which is derived from the CPM. That's how we judge it 50% and go back to the bigger pay items for the payment. And then after that, we're going to do a Bentley, which is we do a meeting for that. So today I'm going to show you a little video clip. I hope you guys can see this. Not this one. This is during the meeting. We have the 4D model online. Can you see this one?
No.
No? All right. That is very unfortunate. And then I will provide that video afterwards. But I'll show you some other video after that. So after we do that, we have the 45D model by Bentley on a monthly schedule. And I was trying to show you an overview, but unfortunately, it's just not showing. So the next, what's the good part and the bad part about a BIM model? The pros for that, you can actually find a problem during design because it's basically a CAD drawings built up to the 4D model. So you can see your confliction during design. There's better communication. You're saving time on material. What happened is when you have very precise, know what columns and beams you're looking for during design, and then even more high-tech tracking, you could actually see what's complete on each element, and you can link that with the schedule, and you can find out what's left. Support for prefabrication. We use a lot of material on the prefab. This is one of the great ideas. Say it's like a Lego concept. You have the prefab, and then you actually can manage your job and in less risk. Fewer reworks because everything is playing with the 3D model. The reworks is supposed to be reduced. The cons, incompatibilities with the partners. To be honest, my shop is not using that. And my subcontractors, they have no, because this Synchro is one license costs more than 10 grand. And then you got to have a very strong computer, high CPU. Every time my computer was just crashed just because I was running in Synchro. As much as I wanted to demonstrate that, but I couldn't today. And there's a legal issue. How do we decide who owns the 3D model and the information is correct? And there's a cost for the software. Like when I say, it's expensive and it's not easy to use. And the users got to be well trained. But I understand this millennial generation should be very computer literate. So for them, using a 3D model should be a piece of cake. But for the older generation, I had a difficult time using it. It wasn't easy. Any questions? Thanks for your time. I hope everybody enjoyed this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Vincent. 我们今天非常谢谢江志平 Vincent 带来的分享。那由于一些技术问题，所以他的影片没办法跟大家分享。那之后再请 Vincent 可以再 share link 或是什么给大家这样子。那想问一下大家有没有什么问题想跟 Vincent 讨论一下，就是关于他今天讲的这个BIM，然后目前业界在使用的状况，然后或是一些 case 的经验谈这样子。Oliver 好像举手。
对，不好意思，我有抛3个问题想要问 Vincent， 就是因为我本身也是这个 project control， 然后刚好现在公司有在导入4D 和5D， 想问看看，就是在美国啊，通常是哪一种合约发包的 type 会比较取向是要用4D 或5D？ 比如说，通常是分成 design build 或是 design build， 可是比如说我们要做4D、5D， 有时候可能以业主的角度，我们的资讯可能不够多，就是比如说我们这个专案的时程，我们没有办法照 WBS 展开的太细，那是不是就是可能 design build 会比较适合？
我有很多案子是lump sum的，然后也有 4D model， 然后小到只有30几个 million， 它也要。然后是一个 substation， 所以 it all depends on the owner。但是我知道像全美国最大的 agency 就是 MTA 嘛 ，Metropolitan Transportation Agency， 然后他们现在才刚开始而已，但是 New York State DOT 已经开始很久，所以MTA 的案子我最近有一个是$400 million，$460 million， 他反而没有要求 4D model， 所以 it's really hard to say。OK，
那Vincent，我想要问一下，就是你刚才有提到说，就是 schedule 导入4D、5D， 因为刚才主要是讲 schedule 的部分，可能把 cost 导入到我们的 Primavera 的软体，然后他可能可以看到那个 S curve 的部分。可是就是因为刚好没有看到你的影片，我想要问一下，就是你刚刚有提到，好像有一个软体是可以把 3D 的元件，就是也导入到我们的 schedule 里面。那这部分你可以稍微再提一下细节的部分，要怎么样把它串联起来？
我今天很可惜没有办法 demonstrate， 就是 Bentley， 就是我用的 Synchro 怎么样看到 5D 的 model， 对，然后呢，它基本上就是说，你的 baseline 已经好的时候，它每一个 element 都是跟你的 baseline 的 activity 连在一起的。然后我们 input 的时候 ，Primavera 每一个 element 里面都有一个 cost， 但是我们讲的是 cost， 可是对 owner 来说是 cost。The reason they want it， 因为 他们想要知道他们往 federal 那边拿钱的时候，什么时候需要把钱存到 account 里面，所以他们想要看到这个 cash flow curve。对，但是对我们来说，我们想要知道我们哪时候可以领到钱，所以呢，我每个月都要但是我们自己本身的 cost， 就是说我们的 expense， 其实我们是没有漏进去的，我们只有放 revenue，contractor 是放 revenue 进去而已。所以这个 P6 还没有办法把 revenue 跟 cost 把它分开来。其实它是有，但是他不愿意做，因为就是两个 database。因为当然这 cost 是 contractor 的商业机密嘛，所以我们不希望 owner 会看到。
OK， 所以说这个软体它在导入在串联的时候，是在它那个软体的平台是在 P6 里面。
对，其实它所谓的 5D 有 3D 是 Bentley 来的，但是 2D 是 Primavera 来的，就是 cost 跟 time 是 Primavera 来的。XYZ 是 Bentley 的 Synchro 来的。
哦 ，OK，
会有一个好处就是说，你案子结束以后，那种古代刚开始的时候，还有用那个 microfilm， 就是那个投影片。那时候我们还有一盒一盒的投影片。那现在 Synchro 就是你只要给他一个 3D 档案就好 ，SBO drawings all here， 你就不用给他别的。我们后来还进步到烧光碟了 ，AutoCAD file 烧在光碟里面，后来 USB， 后来是在 Cloud 里面，现在 3D 就好了。
OK，
我想请问一下，说你们在不论是在台湾或是在美国其他的学校里面，有 touch 到这部分吗？either Primavera 或者是 BIM model。
BIM 目前在台湾其实10年前就有在推 BIM 的部分，但是 BIM 在 combine 4D 5D 算是这几年台湾可能有在推的，而且我觉得台湾可能是科技公司可能比较在推，一般的产业可能主要还是单纯是用 Primavera 去做公共工程，就是可能去定 baseline 这一部分，但是没有去 combine 就是 3D 的部分。对，目前台湾的趋势是这样。
因为毕竟上它这个第一个它软体还蛮贵的，第二个你要一个 full time 的人去 run 这个，其实是成本还蛮高的。
那目前在美国就是在导入4D 5D 的话，通常是私人是那种公共工程比较多。
对，我们的是这样子说，我的这个案子 designer 是 HDR， 所以他们自己本身有一个 BIM 的部门。所以我刚才本来要给你们看的 video 是 bidding 的时候，你就要把它做成一个 presentation， 就是用这个 BIM model 去做。然后 after bidding 的时候，他就把这个 AutoCAD 交给我一个下包，我的下包叫 MD3G，然后他是一个在 North Carolina 的一个like 个体户这样 personal 的去 run 他的 company。那每个月我就把 P6 他做好了以后，他的 model， 然后我每个月把 P6 给他，然后他就会给我一个 update。所以 unfortunately I can't show you the video，but yeah, it looks really amazing。你可以看到它跟 baseline 怎么比，原来的，然后你后来 actual 是怎么样，就可以看到你同一个时间里面，你本来 you should have could have， 然后you will have， 就是你可以看到那个不一样的地方。对
，OK， 好，谢谢 Vincent， 谢谢你分享。
可以看到吗？
有，可以。
Awesome. I'm sorry, I'm very low tech. But this is like what happened really on the Super Weekend. I think it's really cool.
我有一个问题啊，这个病在发展有分几个阶段呢？第一个是 design stage， 第二个是 construction stage。那所谓的4D 跟5D 啊，通常都是 construction team 去 develop。那我要问的问题是啊，通常那个在 design stage 是 consultant to develop， 那怎么样 transform 到 construction stage， 然后去转成4D 跟5D。那如果是统包的话，其实我个人的 idea 是说，假设是统包工程，能不能从一开始的 design stage 到所谓的construction stage 的4D 或是5D 之类的，是不是都是同一个 team 在 handle？ 那我们在台湾的实务上面，大概就是 design team 是一个 model， 然后把它 transform 或是 deliver 到给 construction contractor。不晓得在美国的实务上面是怎么运作。
谢谢你的问题。So，我自己的有2个案子，有一个是 lump sum 的。那 basically lump sum 就是所有的设计图都已经有了，那个设计图就直接给我的下包，有一个叫 N-Tech， 所以之前我是用它，然后他们就直接把它转成一个 4D、5D model， 然后再给我。然后这个 design build 比较特别，是说我们 bid 的时候，我们就跟这个 HDR 已经合作了，所以 HDR 把政府就是 EOT 给他们的图，然后把它 expand a little bit， 所以那只是一个 concept， 所以没有 finalize， 一直到最后做了 boring， 然后他们的 design stage， 所以像我的 4D、5D model 其实只有10个，但是我的 update 已经有27个，所以 4D、5D model 会出来比较慢，因为你要 design 差不多了，你才可以给他们，然后中间还会一直稍微改变一下所以那个 CAD file 的时候就要一直 update。那我的 designer 会给我的下包，那我的下包，因为我们的 CPM 跟这个 4D、5D model， 它的 element 已经，它那些 element 都已经连在一起了，所以它不会去改变，只是说稍微的那个 CAD drawing 有一点 AutoCAD drawing 有一点不一样的时候，所以你的那个 4D 又跑起来，其实差那么一点点，其实看不太出来。但最后 4S build it's important。
你们实务上面是不是有那个所谓的 design model， 然后到一个 construction model？ 因为那个如果叫 level of development 有 LOD， design 要做到 LOD 300，construction model 可能要做到500。
有，所以就看你怎么跟 designer 签约了。那我们跟 designer 签约的时候 ，level 1就是300嘛，然后到了 construction 要做500，然后你就看业主怎么要求。他们有些 system，例如说这个案子很多 utility， 它有 ITS 或者是有 waterman， 那个都是2inch而已。然后我们就会跟业主说，2inch， 拜托你不要画了吧，这真的这根本就看不出来，跟头发丝一样。那就是要 give and take。所以我有被要求 SOE 要画进去，但是 designer 不包这个。SOE 是 sports of excavation，it's temporary。你盖完的时候你把它拿掉，但是我的业主要，所以我就另外发包给我的那个小包商，因为我的那个 3D 的包商他给我的价钱比较好一点，所以我们就找他，因为 HDR 是名牌比较贵一点，所以 during construction 的时候他们会微调整，有些会还是停留在300，有些会到500。
那 design transfer 到 construction， 那它的 scope 是移交由 construction designer 还需要再介入嘛？如果是 LOD 300做完以后，到 construction model， 因为可能 model 都按照 construction master 所以调整。
所以这个比较有趣的是，因为在 spec 里面有一个 section 就是 for 4D、5D， 我们给 engineering firm 的时候就是叫他们 follow， 所以 theoretically 他们就是要给我们到500的地步。
designer 要求 designer。
对，但是呢，像这个案子我们 SOE 就没放进去，所以就有一个漏洞，只好我们去补，找一个比较便宜的方法补回去。
那我比较好奇是，如果合约要求 designer 做到 LOD 500的话，那个 consultant 要有那个 ability 呢，要能够做到500的程度啊。一般的
我的 consultant 可以，对，因为他其实不是那 SOE 的图是我们在另外找一个 engineering firm 做的，所以这些比较大的公司，例如说 HDR、ACOM 或者是像英国那个叫什么公司，我忽然忘记。Anyway， 这些比较大的公司，我们跟他们交手的结果就是他们做这个 4D、5D，AROP 对，他们的那个报价都非常非常的高，非常的高，因为他们就是一个 team 在做的，所以他们也当然他们做出来的品质也比较好，但是我必须说他们报价是非常的高，
所以他们有 ability 可以做到 level 2了，
可以啊，就是跟你买一台车一样嘛，你买一台 Bentley 或者是你买个 Toyota 就好了，所以当然了，我们 contractor 就是可以省就省。我比较好奇的是说，在台湾或者是这边有很多人都是在澳洲，你们有用到很多这个吗？
澳洲吧，澳洲地铁应该有用到的，都会被要求的，现在几乎都会被要求的。
因为上一次 Jay 跟我说，台湾的大陆工程有一个部门专门就在做这个，所以我想台湾现在是越来越有要求在做这个。
有，我的问题就是台湾现在发生的问题，就是 engineer 份没办法做到 construction 份的那种细致程度啊，所以会有 deliverable 会有一些 gap， 这个 gap 其实要花时间的。如果是一开始能够先定义好，或是说大家都讲好，那可能会比较有效。我刚刚讲的话就是 design model， 就是交完就是只是一个 basic information， 那 transform 到 construction contractor 他再去 develop。那在东南亚也是有这个情况，我现在手上的案子也是类似这种情况，所以我不太了解说国际上或是外国上面它的 big model 应该是从头到尾应该是同一个 team 来做的话，就不会有 gap。可是我们现在是 engineer 份，要交给另外一个份去处理的话，就有这 gap。处理除了4D 跟5D， 还有 assets， 就是一些资产的前置作业啊，那个 data 也是很大。
所以这个你讲到这个，就是它有一个缺点，就是说 the ownership of the 3D、4D， 就是这些资料到底是不是有这么准确？那我知道有些公司甚至已经准到，就是说每个 element 有没有上去，他们是去把每一根 bin 每一个 component 都把它有一个编号，所以你就可以去 track。有些是准到这样，但是我们因为这种 heavy construction 比较难，因为我们每一个地方的就是它不是重复或者是很可以分成一块一块的，所以我们 construction 的时候，常常例如说我们的 retaining wall 分5块、分4块、分3块，常常都是看 utility 去变化，所以它比较难，就是说一个，而且它每一个都是长不一样，它都是一个 special，所以如果在那种大楼啊，或者是一些比较重复性，例如说地铁的那种 TBM 那种，它比较可以用到这个方法去管理。但是在我的部分的话，我们没有办法做到那么精细，所以我们跟业主中间有一个默契的，就是说我们在请款的时候，就是因为没有办法精细到这个程度，所以我们用 CPM 去请款是一个大概。那个部分的 category 已经完成的话，我们就会请100%，那就是跟业主中间有一个默契的，对。
Thank you。
有人问问题，可以点开看一下。
第一个问题是 Normally in the state, which project tendering types would you recommend using a 4D-5D model, design build or design bid build? 其实我自己个人用过以后的经验呢，我会觉得 design build 用起来会比较有意义，因为它到后面的时候，尤其是我必须说这么多年的工作经验，我会觉得说尤其是在纽约啦，就是所有的公共工程10个里面有9个都是 running late， 都是 delay。那原因呢？10个里面呢有大概8个都是因为 utility， 因为纽约这些大魔王 utility 公司真是太难控制了。那这个部分呢，就是你就会用到很多 4D、5D model， 因为它是 underground boring， 然后你就可以比较容易去跟业主解释说为什么 utility 带给我们这么多的麻烦。所以 design build 的部分，我觉得用 4D、5D model 这是一个好的事情，而且说，因为 design build 不是像旧的这种 design build， 你已经有 drawing 的，然后业主在发包给你的时候，他们自己本身已经知道整个设计了。design build 是还在一个 concept 中间，所以你有一个 4D、5D model 的时候，让业主比较能够容易了解说这个案子的真正的样子，你就 visualize it。所以我觉得 design build 对我来说，我会比较推荐。第二个问题是 What kind of project objectives would you recommend implementing 4D-5D infrastructure, renewable transportation, high-tech facilities? 我有一个案子是substation， 是 electrical substation， 是给 PATH 做的，他就是换掉，把旧的 substation 关掉，然后换新的。我觉得那个做 4D-5D it doesn't make sense at all。他后来出的问题是在他们买的 equipment 的问题，跟 layout 什么都完全没有关系，它是盖在一个新的上面。所以那个对我来说就是浪费了非常多钱，但是我觉得最有效、做 4D-5D 的话，有一个好处是我们常用到，就是 structure， 尤其是 structure， 像这个 DOT 这个案子，它有很多 replacement of structure， 你可以去看到那个 conflict， 你可以去看到，尤其是我们的下包做我们 structure 的下包， 他们是用我们的 4D model 去模拟，他们要先做哪几个 element， 然后去模拟说，几个 element 会不会冲突。所以我觉得 anything related to structure，especially 它是 irregular， 不是这种大的这种一直重复的，它这个是蛮有用的。Would you recommend general contractor or a client apply 4D 5D model？ 这我的经验的话，我们其实这个 4D 5D model 我用了10几年了，然后我觉得 contractor 的部分呢，说真的会看的人很少，每一次呢都是 at the end of the project， 然后大家做一个 presentation 的时候拿出来看，或者是说它放在 portfolio 里面，你要去下一个你要去竞标的时候，你会去给人家看说我们用这个，但是 honestly 用到的人真的不多，每次都是我在用而已，然后我会跟他们讲这个有问题，那个有问题，所以我觉得 contractor 来说，就是大家还没有用到这么 detail 的部分。那有一天的话，就是说这个 software 再普及一点，第一点这个 bandwidth 真的是跑很慢，然后第二点是说它跟其他的，例如说 cost 或者是 CPM， 像是它跟 CPM 几乎是连的已经很好，可是它跟 cost engineer 其实连的不太好，所以 cost engineer 还没有办法去 visualize 这个观念，然后传给老板，因为contractor 的 owner， 因为 revenue 是 controllable， 但是 cost 是比较难 control， 所以我们老板其实会花90%的时间去找那个 cost， 想要减低 cost， 但是他们没有去用这个方法，所以我觉得这个 software 还是没有办法很正确的 link 到 cost 的 software 上面，所以今天这个 market 里面的话，还需要一点时间。好 ，OK， during the course of project execution, when is the most appropriate time to allocate the maximum resources to prevent waste？ 所以这个第一个这个部分，尤其是 design build， 像这有2个角度啦。现在的 design build 蛮有趣的，就是说它 first of all it's invitation only， 所以像比较大的案子，我们在标 DOT 的时候，我们多半就只有2个 competitors， 或者是1个，甚至有时候就是两个而已这样，或者4个，最多不超过5个。然后这时候他们因为他知道说你找了这些 engineering firm， 而且我觉得 design build 有一个好处就是说，以前这个 design bid build engineering firm 永远都是好像在 contract 上面，好像在等于说就是说我们 approve 你们所有的 shaft drawing， 我们 approve 你们所有的东西，所以他们就是好像高我们一阶这样。可是因为这个 design build 的关系呢，所以大家都会有时候会联盟，有时候你如果是这个或者是这个 design build 在 owner 那边还是会请一个顾问公司来看我们的东西，所以大家角色都互换，所以变成说比较和平一点，不会像以前这样子好像硬杠这样，所以我还蛮喜欢那个气氛。然后呢，所以他在 bid 的时候呢，每一个被 invited bidders contractor， 他们其实都会发钱给你，就是说有一点点补助这样的，对。那你说maximum resource to prevent waste， 在这个阶段的话，你就是看你要投资多少钱去看你的经验要投资多少钱。那多半我们公司bid 的那个比率，我觉得大概是投5中1吧。那所以有4个就是会赔钱，有1个就是会赚钱，所以你就要用那4个赔钱去赚。那 during construction 的时候，用在这个 resource 上面的时候，这个 4D 5D model 其实是一个蛮好的 tool 去 management 你的 cost。可是 like what I say again， 我还不知道有哪一个 contractor 有真的用这个 model 去 manage cost， 至少我们公司还没有做到这个地步。所以这个我觉得还有进步的空间。那第2个 ，How do you deal with the delay issues and catch up with the deadline？ 这个问题是蛮好的嘛。现在 like what I say， 我这个案子有10个月 delay， 里面有3个月是 utility， 因为 Con Edison 就是 wouldn't come to the job site。Con Edison National Grid for gas line， 然后还有 DEP 的 waterman， 这3个都是大魔头，他们想来就来，不想来就不要来。Even though DOT 跟你是大家都平起平坐嘛，都是 public agency， 可是他们谁都不管谁。所以呢，像我这个 Con Edison 已经1年不来了，所以我们把他们的管子我们还要再 wing back， 把它过在旁边，让我们的那个 pier 可以盖上去。所以这个 delay 的时候，这种 utility 你是没有办法回来的。那现在的业主不喜欢有 impact cost， 所以以前的它就叫 impact cost 是compensation， 就是说业主好像说意思是说我们被 delay 了，所以你要赔我钱，他们不喜欢听这个。现在的新一代的方法是 acceleration cost， 就是说我们被 delay 10个月，那像我这个案子的话，我们现在就 double shift， 去做那个最后一个 stage double deck 的最后一个 stage， 那我们就把它拉回来几个月，然后业主会付你这个拉回来的钱。但是我们也想赶快走啊，因为我们多在那边多一天 operation cost 就是很多，所以我们也很想赶快走。所以现在新时代就是说，你先去看你的 delay 多少，然后你再把它拉回来多少，所以这拉回来是要付钱的。所以现在比较不会做 impact cost， 因为这个对业主来说他们不喜欢听的。那拉回来的方法就是 double shift， 或者是你有一个 alternate。可是像我这个案子，因为所有东西都很挤啊，你没有 alternate， 它都是 linear， 就是一个接一个这样子。
好，那我们今天非常谢谢江志平 Vincent 给我们带来的分享。那因为我们这边美东时间已经是半夜12点了，那我们今天的会议就先到此告个段落。然后谢谢大家，然后谢谢 Vincent，
谢谢光远，
谢谢，
OK， 谢谢大家 ，Good night，
OK， 拜。
拜拜。